Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating 2022 study that takes us deep into the mountains of southwestern Ethiopia. What researchers found there is basically a living library of traditional knowledge, an entire pharmacy of ancient wisdom that's been passed down for generations and, as we'll see, is now seriously under threat.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at why researchers were so interested in the Hamar people to begin with. Then we'll get into the really delicate process of how they earned their trust. After that, we get to open up the mountain's pharmacy and see what's inside, discover how these plants are so much more than just medicine, and finally, face the very real threats this entire system is up against.
Okay, so why this specific place? Well, the Buska Mountain range is home to the Hamar people, and this is a community that is almost completely dependent on the plants around them for everything: their food, their shelter, and their medicine. For the Hamar, this isn't some quaint cultural heritage. Their deep knowledge of plants is literally a matter of life and death every single day.
Now, there's a name for this field of study. It's called ethnobotany. But here's the thing. It's not just about making a big list of plants and what they do. It's about understanding the really deep, complex relationship between a people and their environment. It's the story of how humans and plants have literally grown up together over centuries.
Right, so you can't just show up in a place like this with a notepad and start asking questions about sacred knowledge. It just doesn't work that way. Before any of the science could happen, the researchers had to do something way more important. They had to earn the trust of the Hamar people. And this was a careful, respectful process that absolutely could not be rushed.
They followed the Hamar's cultural rules to the letter. First up, they got consent from the community leaders who were called the Bito. Then, with a local translator helping, they had these long, detailed discussions about what the study was for. And here's the crucial part. They had to receive the blessings of the elders, the Donza. It was only after all that, when the community was a true partner, that the real research could even begin.
And this is the turning point. As you can see in the quote, the researchers weren't seen as outsiders anymore. They were welcomed as miso, which means friends. This whole new relationship was sealed when they all shared a traditional sorghum drink. And that one simple act completely transformed the project from just a study into a genuine collaboration.
So, with that foundation of trust built, the researchers were finally invited into the Hamar's world. And that's when they started to document this just astonishingly rich and complex natural pharmacy that was hidden in plain sight among the mountain's plants.
And what they found was just staggering. The team documented 145 different species of medicinal plants. Just think about that for a second. An entire pharmacy's worth. And these were used to treat 72 different ailments, not just for people, but for their livestock too, which were vital. This covered everything from common problems like malaria to life-or-death threats like rabies and snake bites. So, how do they actually make these remedies? Well, this chart reveals something really important. Leaves are, by a huge margin, the most commonly used part, and the study points out they are almost always used fresh. This tells us something absolutely critical about their medical practice. It depends completely on having immediate access to a healthy, living environment. You can't just store this stuff for years.
Now, if we geek out on the botany for a minute, you see a really clear pattern. Even though they use 145 species, a few key plant families are doing most of the heavy lifting here. The Fabaceae family, the family that includes things like peas and beans, is the absolute powerhouse, making up almost a quarter of all the medicinal species they use.
This table shows just how incredibly precise this knowledge is. See that term, fidelity level? That's basically a scientific way of asking how much the healers agree on using one specific plant for one specific problem. Look at that top line, a 94% consensus on using a single plant for something as deadly as rabies. That's not guesswork. That points to a highly effective treatment, tested and fine-tuned over countless generations.
But here's where it gets even deeper. These plants aren't just tucked away in a medicine pouch. No, they are woven into the very fabric of Hamar life. They're part of their homes, their food, their tools, and even their most sacred ceremonies.
Just take the Acacia mellifera tree, for example. The Hamar community actually ranked it as one of their most important multi-purpose plants. It's not just one thing for them. It's food for their animals, it's building material for their homes, and it's essential for their bees to make honey. A single plant species is a cornerstone of their entire society.
This deep knowledge of plants shapes even their most common everyday objects. Look at the Borkoda. It's a tool that every Hamar man carries. It's such a clever design. It's a portable seat that you can just flip on its side, and suddenly it's a headrest for sleeping.
But you can't just use any old wood. To make one, you have to know exactly which plants have wood that's strong enough and suitable for carving. And the connection between plants and culture doesn't get much more powerful than with a plant like Grewia ferruginea. On one hand, it's known for its medicinal uses, but it's also the only source for the Mikakere stick. This stick is a central part of their most famous ceremony, the Ivangadi, or bull jumping, which is a critical rite of passage for young Hamar men. So this one plant is both a healer and a powerful cultural symbol.
Okay, and this is a big but, this entire intricate system, this living library, and the biodiversity that holds it all up is incredibly fragile. And as the study makes heartbreakingly clear, it's now facing some very serious threats that could wipe this cultural heritage off the map forever.
And what's so powerful here is the researchers didn't just guess what the threats were. They asked the community to rank the dangers themselves. And their number one concern might actually surprise you. It's the destructive way they harvest tree bark to build their traditional beehives. This practice of ringing a tree, it kills it. And that's followed by the pressures we see elsewhere, like agricultural expansion and livestock grazing.
Now, what makes this whole situation so incredibly fragile is that a threat to the plants is a direct threat to the knowledge itself, because none of this is written down. It is all an oral tradition, passed selectively from an elder to an apprentice. The study actually confirmed this with data. The older a person is, the more knowledge they hold. So when an elder dies, it's like a whole volume from this living library just vanishes forever.
And all of this leaves us with a really critical question. The loss here isn't just about plants, it's about preserving human knowledge. When a plant from the Buska Mountain goes extinct, we don't just lose a piece of biodiversity. We might be losing an ancient, time-tested solution to a problem that we don't even know we have yet.